Step out of the car. Now. The flashlight beam slammed through the driver's side window hard enough to make the old sedan glow white inside. Red and blue lights pulsed across the empty Louisiana highway. Cicadas screamed from the trees. A truck thundered past, rattling the shoulder beneath the tires. The woman behind the wheel raised both hands slowly. Calm. Controlled. Officer, is there a problem? Yeah, the cop snapped. You driving through my county looking like you got one. Officer Craig Dutton stood beside the car with one hand resting near his holster. Tall. Thick-necked. Buzz cut under the highway lights. His mirrored sunglasses still covered his eyes even though the sun had been gone for over an hour. He looked down into the car like he was inspecting garbage somebody dumped beside the road. License. Registration. And keep those hands where I can see them. The woman reached carefully into her purse. Leather worn soft with age. Her fingers did not shake. That seemed to irritate him even more. Little too calm for somebody getting stopped at midnight. I am cooperating. I did not ask if you were cooperating. His voice cracked across the highway. I asked for your papers. A second truck rolled by slower this time. The driver glanced over. Kept going. Nobody stopped on Route 9 after dark. Everybody in Redfield knew that. The woman handed him her license. Yvonne Preston. Atlanta address. Dutton stared at it for half a second longer than necessary. Then his mouth twisted. Passing through? Yes. He leaned down closer to the window. Funny thing about people passing through. They usually got cash. Behind him, his patrol car engine idled low. The dashcam light blinked red. Steady. Watching everything. Yvonne noticed it immediately. Dutton noticed her noticing it. He smiled. Slow. Mean. Step out of the vehicle. She obeyed without argument. The humid air wrapped around her the second she stepped onto the shoulder. Gravel crunched beneath her shoes. Dutton circled her once like a dog deciding where to bite. Hands on the hood. Officer, what exactly am I being stopped for? You ask a lot of questions for somebody in trouble. I asked a legal one. That changed something in his face. Tiny. Quick. Dangerous. Oh, you one of those. He grabbed her wrist and shoved her toward the hood hard enough to make metal groan beneath her palms. A passing SUV slowed down. A teenage boy inside lifted his phone halfway toward the window. His mother grabbed his arm immediately and pulled it down. The SUV sped away. Silence swallowed the highway again. People like you always think rules do not apply, Dutton muttered. Sir, I have not resisted you. You got attitude though. No. I have dignity. For 1 second his jaw tightened. Then he laughed. Loud enough for the body cam microphone. Dignity? He looked her up and down slowly. Lady, this piece of junk barely made it across the parish line. He tapped the roof of her old sedan with his flashlight. You think I do not know drug mules use cars like this? Yvonne kept her hands flat against the hood. Still calm. Too calm. Sweat rolled down the side of Dutton's neck. Open the trunk. Do you have probable cause? The flashlight stopped moving. What did you just say? I asked if you have probable cause. His face darkened instantly. You trying to sound smart now? I am asking your legal justification. Dutton stepped closer until his chest nearly touched her shoulder. Here is my legal justification. I say what happens on this road. He lowered his voice. And right now, what happens depends on whether you make this easy for me. Another pair of headlights appeared in the distance. A gas station pickup slowed near the shoulder. The old man driving recognized the patrol car immediately. His eyes flicked toward Yvonne. Fear moved across his face like a shadow. For half a second it looked like he might stop. Might say something. Then Dutton turned toward the truck. Just a glance. That was enough. The pickup accelerated and disappeared into the dark. Yvonne watched the taillights vanish. Funny, Dutton said softly. Nobody ever sticks around. He walked back toward his cruiser, then returned holding a small notepad. Here is what is going to happen. You either pay 200 cash right now, he ripped the ticket paper free dramatically. Or I tow the car, search every inch of it, and maybe I accidentally find something that ruins your life. He smiled again. Your choice, sweetheart. The word hung in the humid air like poison. Yvonne lowered her eyes briefly. Not scared. Thinking. Dutton mistook the silence for surrender. He always did. I do not carry cash, she said quietly. Then you are going to have a real bad night. He grabbed her shoulder harder this time and shoved her sideways against the hood. Metal popped beneath the impact. Maybe county lockup teaches you some respect. The patrol radio crackled suddenly. Dispatch voice. Faint. Distorted. Unit 7, status check. Dutton snatched the radio immediately. Busy. He clicked it off before dispatch could answer again. Then he leaned closer to Yvonne's ear. Judge Vance signs whatever paperwork I put in front of him. The D plays golf with my captain every Sunday. Nobody in this county cares what happens to drivers like you. He paused. Nobody. Yvonne turned her head slightly toward him. For the first time, her expression changed. Barely. Not fear. Not anger. Something colder. Something that made Dutton stop talking for half a second without understanding why. Her eyes moved once toward his chest. Toward the body cam. Then toward the blinking dash cam light in the cruiser. Recording. Every word. Every threat. Dutton noticed her looking. Yeah, he sneered. Smile for the camera. Slowly, carefully, Yvonne pulled one hand away from the hood and reached toward the inside pocket of her jacket. Dutton's hand dropped instantly to his weapon. Hey. I did not say move. Gravel crunched behind them. Another vehicle approaching fast this time. Black headlights cutting through the dark. Dutton turned sharply toward the road as the unfamiliar SUV rolled closer and closer through the flashing red and blue lights. Then the SUV stopped 20 feet behind the patrol car. Engine still running. Nobody stepped out. Yvonne's fingers remained inside her jacket pocket. Dutton stared at the black SUV. The highway suddenly felt very quiet. The black SUV stayed parked behind the patrol car. Engine humming low. Headlights cutting through the swamp-dark highway. Nobody stepped out. Nobody moved. Officer Craig Dutton narrowed his eyes toward the windshield. Stay right there, he barked without looking at Yvonne. Do not even breathe wrong. His hand stayed near his weapon as he walked slowly toward the SUV. Gravel cracked beneath his boots. Yvonne remained against the hood of the car. Hands flat. Face calm. But the muscles in her jaw tightened once when she glanced toward the blinking dashcam. Recording. Every word still trapped inside that patrol cruiser. The SUV window rolled down halfway. A man inside leaned out just enough for the cigarette ember in his hand to glow red. Car trouble, he muttered. Thought I saw smoke. Dutton relaxed immediately. Local. White. Middle-aged. Harmless. Keep driving, Dutton snapped. Police business. The man looked once toward Yvonne. Their eyes met for half a second. Something passed between them. Recognition maybe. Or guilt. Then he rolled the window back up and drove away into the dark. Yvonne watched the taillights disappear. Another person who saw. Another person too afraid to stop. The highway fell silent again except for insects and the distant roar of 18-wheelers. Dutton returned slower this time. Studying her differently now. You know what your problem is? He asked. You think staying calm makes you smarter than everybody else. Yvonne said nothing. I have seen your type before. Educated. Mouth full of legal words. He smirked. Usually ends with me finding drugs under the seat. His flashlight beam slid across the inside of her sedan again. Old coffee cup. Folded road maps. A gray sweater on the passenger seat. Nothing expensive. Nothing flashy. But near the center console sat a worn leather notebook held shut with a black elastic band. Dutton noticed it immediately. What is that? Just notes. Open it. Yvonne hesitated 1 second too long. Tiny. Barely visible. But Dutton caught it. His smile widened. Ah. There it is. He reached into the car before she could answer and snatched the notebook out himself. Officer, that is personal property. And this is an active stop. He flipped through pages carelessly beneath the flashlight. Names. Dates. Highway mile markers. Small handwritten notes. Some pages folded at the corners. Dutton's smile faded slightly. What the hell is this? Yvonne's voice stayed level. Give it back. He ignored her. More names. More dates. Route numbers. Vehicle descriptions. Dutton stopped flipping. The air shifted. Not fear exactly. Awareness. Like the first crack in ice beneath somebody's feet. Then the radio on his shoulder crackled again. Unit 7, status. Dutton grabbed it hard. Everything is under control. Dispatch hesitated this time. Sheriff asked why your camera feed dropped earlier. Dutton's face hardened instantly. Technical issue. He clicked the radio off again. Yvonne noticed the sweat forming near his temple now despite the cool night wind rolling off the swamp. He shoved the notebook against her chest harder than necessary. You keeping records on cops now? I keep records on places I travel through. That sounds real close to interfering with law enforcement. No. It sounds organized. He stared at her. Long careful. Somewhere in the distance thunder rolled softly across the Louisiana sky. Yvonne lowered her eyes briefly toward the notebook in her hands. One corner page had bent open during the struggle. Dutton caught only a glimpse before she closed it again. Route 9. Victim 12. Female. Cash seizure. No warrant. His expression changed. Small. Dangerous. Have you ever noticed how power panics the second somebody starts keeping track of the truth? Dutton stepped closer again. You know what I think, he said quietly. I think you are not passing through at all. Yvonne remained silent. I think you came looking. He circled her once more. Question is why? Back in Atlanta, 6 hours earlier, rain tapped softly against the windows of a small federal apartment. Yvonne Preston sat alone at her kitchen table beneath a dim yellow light. Files spread carefully in front of her. Photographs. Complaint reports. Towing receipts. A wrinkled family picture clipped beside a handwritten statement from a truck driver who vanished after filing an internal complaint. On the stove, soup simmered untouched. Cold now. Her phone buzzed once with a message from her younger brother Marcus. You still working that highway case? Call Mom tomorrow. She worries. Yvonne stared at the message but did not answer immediately. Instead she picked up an old photograph sitting near the files. Her father standing beside a delivery truck 20 years earlier. smiling proudly. 2 months after that picture, corrupt seizure laws had taken his business apart piece by piece. He died believing nobody important ever listened. Yvonne placed the photograph back down carefully beside the notebook. Then she opened a plain black case for just 1 second before closing it again. Gold flashed beneath the kitchen light. Sharp. Official. Hidden. Her eyes stayed on it longer than they should have. Then she whispered softly to herself, "Not yet." Back on Route 9, Dutton suddenly grabbed her arm again. "Harder this time. I asked you a question." Headlights appeared behind them once more. Not one vehicle this time. Two. Moving together through the darkness. The two headlights grew larger behind them. Slow. Steady. Officer Craig Dutton tightened his grip on Yvonne's arm hard enough to wrinkle her jacket sleeve. "Who are they?" he demanded. Yvonne looked toward the approaching vehicles but said nothing. The first SUV rolled past the patrol car just enough for its tires to crush gravel along the shoulder. County utility logo on the door. Harmless. The second vehicle followed behind it. Old pickup truck. Rust along the side panels. Both kept driving. Dutton exhaled through his nose sharply. "Thought so." He shoved Yvonne away from the hood. "Nobody comes out here for people like you." The words stayed hanging in the humid night air long after he said them. He stepped back toward her sedan again and swept his flashlight across the interior one more time. "You know what your problem is, Ms. Preston? No, you carry yourself like somebody important." His smile returned slowly. "But important people do not drive 20-year-old sedans through Redfield alone." The flashlight stopped on the notebook again. "And they definitely do not write down cops' names." Yvonne picked the notebook up carefully from the passenger seat. Her thumb rested over the folded corner page before slipping it back into her bag. "Everybody writes things down. Not like that." Dutton stared at her another second too long. Then his radio crackled again. "Unit 7. Sheriff wants update." Dutton rolled his eyes and answered without taking his gaze off Yvonne. "Traffic stop. Female driver. Suspicious behavior. Suspicious behavior." The phrase landed like a stamp. Final. Automatic. Enough to make most people on Route 9 lower their heads and accept whatever came next. Yvonne noticed something else though. The dispatch voice hesitated before answering. Tiny pause. "Barely there. Copy that." Somebody on the other end was listening carefully. Back in Redfield, the glow from Martha Ellis's diner spilled weak yellow light across the empty parking lot. Inside, truckers sat quietly over cold coffee while the late-night news flickered above the counter. A photo of Officer Dutton appeared briefly beside the sheriff during a charity event. Smiling. Shaking hands. "Good man," one customer muttered without conviction. Martha wiped down the counter harder than necessary. "Good men do not make people disappear from this highway." The diner fell silent immediately. A younger waitress glanced nervously toward the windows. "Martha, what?" she snapped. "Everybody thinks it. Nobody says it." Near the register hung an old framed photograph of Martha's son in his trucking uniform. Beneath it sat a towing invoice from 3 years ago folded so many times the edges had turned white. $15,000. Property seizure. Vehicle impounded. Case dismissed. Life ruined anyway. Outside, a patrol cruiser rolled slowly past the diner windows. Every conversation inside stopped instantly. One trucker lowered his phone beneath the table. Another looked down into his coffee like eye contact itself might become evidence. Fear had routines in Redfield. Everybody knew them. Back on Route 9, Dutton leaned against Yvonne's car now like he owned it. "You got family waiting for you somewhere?" "Why?" "Just wondering who files the missing persons report." He laughed after saying it. Like it was a joke. But Yvonne noticed the body cam blinking steadily against his chest when he said it. Recording. Always recording. You should be careful what you say on duty, officer. The smile disappeared from his face again. There you go with that tone. What tone? That educated tone. He stepped closer. You think because you know a few legal words you can walk into my county and make people nervous? Yvonne held his stare calmly. You already seem nervous. For the first time that night, Dutton stopped talking completely. Tiny thing. But real. Somewhere deep inside him, something had started calculating risk. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket. He checked the screen. Sheriff Callahan. Dutton answered immediately. Yeah. A rough voice exploded through the speaker loud enough for Yvonne to hear pieces of it. Still out there. Camera feed dropped twice. Who is she? Dutton turned away slightly. Nobody. Sheriff Callahan answered fast. Sharp. Then why did dispatch flag her plate? Dutton's expression changed instantly. His eyes snapped back toward Yvonne. What? Silence on the other end for 2 seconds. Then the sheriff spoke lower this time. Bring her in. Dutton slowly lowered the phone from his ear. The highway suddenly felt smaller around them. Tighter. Like the darkness itself had started listening. Yvonne noticed his hand drifting toward her bag now. Toward the notebook inside it. Toward whatever he thought she knew. Open the trunk, he said quietly. Now. Then his flashlight beam caught something half hidden beneath the passenger seat. Black leather. Square edges. Official looking. Dutton froze. Officer Craig Dutton stared at the black leather case beneath the passenger seat like it had bitten him. The flashlight beam froze on it. Sharp edges. Expensive leather. Too clean for the rest of the car. The humid wind rolled across the highway shoulder, carrying swamp water and diesel fumes through the dark. Yvonne Preston did not move. That alone made Dutton more suspicious. Most people panicked when cops started noticing hidden things. Most people begged. Explained. Lied badly. Yvonne simply stood there with one hand still against the hood of the sedan, breathing slow and steady beneath the flashing patrol lights. What is that? Dutton asked quietly. Personal property. Funny answer. He stepped toward the passenger door. Open the car. You already opened it. Now you are getting smart with me. No. Precise. The word landed harder than shouting would have. Dutton yanked the passenger door open aggressively and leaned inside. His flashlight moved across the dashboard again. Registration papers. Fast food napkins. Old road maps. Then back to the leather case. He reached under the seat slowly this time. Careful now. Curious. Yvonne finally spoke again. You should not touch items without documenting chain of custody. Dutton paused. Tiny pause. Barely visible. But real. Excuse me. If evidence changes hands before inventory, defense attorneys usually challenge contamination. Silence. The cicadas seemed louder suddenly. Dutton stared at her over the roof of the car. You watch a lot of cop shows. No, he pulled the black case out fully now and turned it over beneath the flashlight. Locked shut. Plain. No markings outside. But his expression shifted again when he noticed how worn the edges were. Frequently used. Not decorative. You a lawyer or something? No, paralegal. No, then how do you know procedure? Yvonne looked directly at the blinking body cam on his chest. You talk long enough around systems, eventually you learn how they work. Dutton narrowed his eyes. Somewhere behind them another truck rolled by slowly. This one honked once. Long and low. Dutton ignored it. His attention stayed locked on the woman in front of him now. Open the case. Do you have a warrant? I do not need one. Actually, depending on jurisdiction and probable cause standards, you might. Another tiny silence. This one heavier. Dutton's jaw flexed hard. You think using big words scares me? No, then what are you doing? Yvonne's answer came calm as rain. Listening. The word unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. His flashlight drifted accidentally toward the notebook still tucked under her arm. Folded pages. Tight handwriting. Organized tabs along the edges. Not random notes. Structured records. Dutton suddenly looked less irritated and more alert. A second patrol cruiser appeared far down the highway. Headlights growing slowly larger. Back up. Dutton relaxed instantly the moment he saw it. Power returned to his face like somebody flipping a switch. There it is, he muttered. Now we do this properly. The second cruiser pulled onto the shoulder behind them. Deputy Leon Briggs stepped out chewing gum beneath the glow of the emergency lights. Young. Nervous eyes. He glanced first at Dutton, then at Yvonne. Then at the leather case in Dutton's hand. Something flickered across Briggs's face immediately. Recognition maybe. Or concern. Everything good? Briggs asked carefully. Dutton tossed the case toward him. Lady thinks she knows the law. Briggs caught it awkwardly. The second his fingers touched the leather, his eyes dropped instinctively toward one corner near the clasp. A tiny engraving almost rubbed away from years of use. His expression changed for half a second. Dutton noticed. What? Briggs looked up too fast. Nothing. Then open it. Briggs hesitated. Tiny. Dangerous hesitation. Maybe we should inventory first. Dutton stared at him slowly. You taking lessons from her now? Briggs swallowed hard and handed the case back immediately. No, sir. Yvonne watched the exchange silently. But she noticed it. The deputy had recognized something. Dutton stepped closer to her again, confidence returning now that another uniform stood beside him. You know the problem with people who think they are smarter than cops? He held the leather case up between two fingers. They always forget who writes the reports. Then he flipped the latch open halfway. Not enough to see inside fully. Just enough for a glint of gold to catch beneath the flashlight beam. Briggs stopped chewing immediately. Dutton's smile vanished. Both men stared down at the case in silence. Then the sheriff's voice exploded suddenly through the radio. Dutton. Do not open anything else until I get there myself. The radio hissed with static for 2 long seconds after the sheriff's order. Do not open anything else until I get there myself. Officer Craig Dutton stared down at the half-open leather case in his hands. Gold still glinted faintly beneath the flashlight beam. Deputy Leon Briggs shifted uncomfortably beside the second cruiser. The night suddenly felt tighter. Colder. Then Dutton snapped the case shut hard. Everybody relax, he said loudly, forcing a laugh that sounded too sharp. Lady probably bought herself a fake badge online. He tossed the case onto the hood of the patrol car like it meant nothing. But he did not take his eyes off Yvonne Preston now. Not once. Step away from the vehicle. Am I being detained? You are being investigated. For what crime? Dutton smiled slowly. I will decide that after the search. Another emotional spike hit instantly. He grabbed her bag from the passenger seat and dumped everything across the hood under the flashing patrol lights. Pens. Receipts. Road maps. The notebook. A bottle of aspirin. A folded photograph slid loose and fluttered onto the gravel. Deputy Briggs bent instinctively to pick it up first. A younger Yvonne stood beside an older black man in front of a delivery truck. Both smiling. Briggs looked at the photo 1 second too long before handing it back quietly. "Careful," Yvonne said. Dutton heard the tone immediately. "Protective. Personal." "Ah," he mocked. "Family memories." He snatched the photo from Briggs and studied it carelessly. "What happened? Daddy teach you how to sue cops?" Yvonne's jaw tightened once. "Barely. My father taught me records matter." Dutton smirked. "Not in this county." Then he crumpled the edge of the photo slightly before tossing it back onto the hood. Deputy Briggs looked uncomfortable now. "Maybe we should wait for Sheriff Callahan." "You giving orders tonight?" Dutton snapped. "No, sir." "Then stand there and learn something." Dutton turned back toward Yvonne. His confidence had shifted into something uglier now. Not just arrogance. Fear mixed with ego. Dangerous combination. He grabbed the notebook again and flipped through pages more aggressively this time. "Look at this." He held it up toward Briggs like evidence. "Mileage logs. Officer names. Vehicle descriptions." He pointed at Yvonne. "That is stalking law enforcement." "No," Yvonne answered calmly. "That is documentation." "Wrong answer." He slammed the notebook shut. People who document cops usually got anti-police agendas. People who fear records usually have reasons. Briggs looked down immediately after she said it. Silence spread across the shoulder again except for insects screaming from the swamp grass. A pickup truck slowed while passing. The driver raised his phone slightly toward the flashing lights. Dutton noticed and shouted instantly, "Keep moving." The truck accelerated away. Nobody wanted trouble with Route 9 deputies. Nobody. Then came the micro-hope. Dispatch crackled over the radio again. Unit 7, State Records returned partial federal clearance flag connected to registered plate. Briggs looked up sharply. Dutton's face darkened instantly. "Repeat that." Static interrupted the response. Then silence. Complete silence. Dutton snatched the radio off his shoulder violently. "Dispatch?" "Nothing." "Dispatch." He looked toward Briggs immediately. "Radio dead?" Briggs checked his own. "Weak signal." Dutton's eyes narrowed. He looked back toward Yvonne slowly now. Calculating again. Thinking harder. Then his expression changed completely. Cold. Decision made. "All right," he muttered. "Here is what happens now." He stepped closer until the flashing lights painted red and blue across both their faces. "You are coming to the station." "On what grounds?" "Obstruction. Suspicious surveillance activity. Possible impersonation." Briggs blinked fast. "Impersonation?" Dutton shot him a look sharp enough to cut skin. "You got a problem with probable cause?" Briggs lowered his eyes immediately. "No, sir." Dutton smiled again after winning the moment back. "Thought so." He reached for handcuffs hanging at his belt. Metal clinked softly beneath the highway lights. Yvonne finally looked directly at the cuffs for the first time all night. Not panic. Recognition. Familiarity. "You should think carefully before putting those on me," she said quietly. Dutton leaned close enough for her to smell stale coffee on his breath. "And you should have thought carefully before driving through my road taking notes." Then he grabbed her wrist. But at that exact moment, Briggs's laptop inside the cruiser suddenly beeped loud enough to cut through the night. Both men turned instinctively toward the glowing screen. One line flashed across the system before disappearing almost instantly. Federal Access Restriction, Level 3 Clearance. The glowing laptop screen inside Deputy Briggs's cruiser flickered once. Then the warning vanished. Just gone. Like somebody reached into the system and ripped the line away before anyone could read it twice. Officer Craig Dutton moved fast. Faster than he had all night. He shoved Yvonne hard against the patrol car with one hand while slamming the cruiser door shut with the other. Nobody touches that computer. Deputy Briggs stared through the windshield. I saw it too. Saw what? Dutton snapped instantly. Briggs hesitated. Nothing. Dutton pointed directly at him. Good answer. The flashing red and blue lights painted all three faces in violent pulses. Highway empty. Swamp wind rolling low through the grass. Somewhere nearby thunder cracked again. Yvonne remained silent beside the hood, wrists still uncuffed but controlled by the weight of Dutton's stare. He looked nervous now. Not scared yet. But nervous. That was new. He grabbed the black leather case again and turned it over beneath the flashlight. His thumb brushed the gold edge near the clasp. One corner had partially peeled from years of use. Underneath it sat three tiny engraved letters almost hidden in the leather grain. Briggs noticed first. His breathing changed. Craig, Dutton looked up sharply. What? Briggs swallowed. Maybe we should wait for the sheriff. Dutton's jaw tightened. You suddenly forget how traffic stops work. No, sir. Then stop acting like she matters. He snapped the case open another inch. Gold flashed brighter this time. Badge edge. Identification laminate beneath it. Still not enough to fully read. But enough. Enough to change the air around them. Yvonne finally spoke. Quiet. Controlled. You should close that. Dutton laughed immediately, too loud this time. Or what? Chain of custody becomes harder to explain once curiosity gets involved. Another silence. Deputy Briggs looked at her differently now. Not like a suspect. Like somebody trained. Somebody dangerous in a very official way. Dutton noticed that too. His temper rose instantly. Everybody keeps talking about procedure tonight. He shoved the leather case into Briggs's chest. Open it yourself then. Briggs froze. Sir. You heard me. Briggs held the case awkwardly in both hands. He looked toward Yvonne once. She gave him nothing. No panic. No plea. Just calm eye contact. That somehow made it worse. Slowly Briggs opened the case another inch. The gold badge became fully visible for one sharp second beneath the patrol lights. Federal seal. Dark blue strip beneath it. Partial lettering. F. B. Briggs stopped breathing entirely. He snapped it shut immediately. Craig, he whispered. Dutton snatched it back fast. What did you see? I do not know. Liar. Dutton's voice cracked harder now. You think she is somebody important? Yvonne looked toward the blinking body cam on his chest again. Still recording. Always recording. Important people are not the issue, she said softly. Documented behavior is. Dutton stepped toward her aggressively. You think carrying a fake badge scares me? No, then why are you so calm? Because panic destroys evidence. That line hit both deputies at once. Briggs looked away immediately. Dutton stared at her like he was trying to force the answer out through intimidation alone. Have you ever noticed how the truth becomes terrifying the second somebody realizes it may already be recorded somewhere? Then came the CTA moment buried naturally in the tension. What do you think scared Dutton more right then, the badge itself, or the possibility that somebody higher up already knew what he had been doing for years? Before either man could speak again, Briggs's cruiser laptop beeped a second time. Louder now. Both deputies turned instantly. A hidden background program had reopened itself automatically. Black screen. White letters. Secure Federal Trace active. Do not interfere with subject vehicle. Dutton lunged into the cruiser and slammed the laptop shut violently. Damn it. His voice echoed down the empty highway. Briggs stepped backward now. Real fear in his face for the first time all night. Craig, if this is federal, it is not federal. Then why is Federal Trace software attached to her plate? Dutton grabbed Briggs by the vest front suddenly. Because somebody made a mistake. People do not accidentally get level 3 flags. The words slipped out before Briggs could stop them. Silence. Heavy silence. Dutton slowly released him. Then he looked back toward Yvonne. Different now. Calculating survival. Get in the car, he ordered coldly. Both of you. Briggs blinked. What? We take her to the station. Sheriff handles it there. And the trace? Dutton's eyes hardened into something ugly. Systems crash all the time. He pointed toward Yvonne. But if that woman reaches federal phones before we know what she really is, every deputy in this county becomes a target. Yvonne said nothing. But inside her bag, beneath the crushed photograph and folded road maps, a tiny red recording light blinked silently through the fabric. The tiny red recording light blinked silently inside Yvonne Preston's bag as Officer Craig Dutton slammed the cruiser door shut. The sound echoed across the empty highway like a trap locking into place. Move, Dutton ordered. Back seat. Yvonne glanced once toward the dark trees lining Route 9. Swamp water shimmered beneath distant lightning. Then she stepped toward the patrol cruiser without resisting. Deputy Leon Briggs stood frozen beside his vehicle, still pale from the Federal Trace warning. Dutton pointed sharply at him. You follow us. Craig, now. Briggs obeyed, but slowly. Uneasy now. The kind of uneasy that happens when a man realizes he may already be standing inside somebody else's investigation. Inside the patrol cruiser, the smell of stale coffee and old cigarettes filled the air. Yvonne sat in the back seat beneath the cage divider. Hands free. Eyes calm. Dutton climbed into the driver's seat and watched her through the rearview mirror for several seconds before speaking. You know what annoys me most about people like you? Yvonne said nothing. You walk around acting untouchable. He started the engine. Everybody breaks eventually. The cruiser pulled onto the highway. Red and blue lights cut across the trees while Briggs followed behind at a distance. Yvonne lowered her eyes briefly toward her bag sitting on the seat beside her. One corner remained slightly open from Dutton's search earlier. Just enough to see the edge of the old photograph inside. Her father smiling beside the delivery truck. 20 years ago. Before everything collapsed. The memory hit fast and sharp. Rain against courthouse windows. Her father standing alone holding seizure papers with trembling hands while deputies emptied his business inventory into evidence trucks. Temporary forfeiture, they called it. Temporary became permanent 3 months later. Nobody apologized. Nobody returned anything. He died believing the law only protected people who already had power. Yvonne's thumb brushed the edge of the photograph slowly now. Quiet pain. Old pain. The kind people learn to carry without showing. The cruiser radio crackled suddenly. Sheriff Callahan's voice filled the car. You bringing her in? Yeah. You searched the vehicle completely? Dutton glanced toward the mirror. Working on it. Then work faster. County systems flagged her twice. Silence. Then Callahan added quietly, and Dutton, do not screw this up. The line disconnected. Dutton tightened both hands around the steering wheel. His confidence kept cracking in tiny places now. Yvonne noticed every one of them. They passed through the edge of Redfield minutes later. Empty storefronts. Rusted gas pumps. Neon diner sign flickering weakly in the dark. Martha Ellis stood outside locking up for the night when the patrol convoy rolled past. Her eyes landed on Yvonne through the cruiser window. Recognition flickered immediately. Not of her face. Of the situation. Another driver. Another late-night stop. Another life dragged toward the station. Martha's expression tightened with helpless anger. Inside the diner kitchen, an old police scanner hissed softly from a shelf. Unit 7 transporting female subject. Martha froze mid-step. Then she looked toward the framed photo of her son hanging near the register. Her voice dropped almost to a whisper. Please let this one fight back. Back in the cruiser, Dutton suddenly spoke again. You know what people say around here? No, they say Route 9 eats outsiders. He smiled faintly at the mirror. Funny thing is, nobody ever asks who feeds it. Yvonne finally answered. People stop asking questions when asking becomes dangerous. Dutton's eyes flicked upward immediately. You talk like somebody who learned that personally. Yvonne looked out the window at the passing courthouse ahead. White columns. American flag hanging still in the heavy night air. I did. Tiny silence. Then Briggs's voice burst through the radio from the second cruiser. Nervous. Craig. I think you should see something before we reach the station. What now? The trace warning reopened. Dutton cursed under his breath. Read it. Static crackled. Then Briggs spoke slowly this time. It says active investigative protection tied to evidence retention. Dutton's face drained slightly. What evidence? Briggs hesitated. It lists one protected item connected to the stop. Yvonne's eyes shifted carefully toward her bag beside her knee. Dutton noticed immediately. So did Briggs. Then Briggs finished the sentence quietly over the radio. A recording device. Silence swallowed the cruiser. Silence swallowed the patrol cruiser after Deputy Briggs said the words. A recording device. Officer Craig Dutton's hands tightened around the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned pale beneath the dashboard glow. The cruiser slowed slightly as they entered downtown Redfield. Empty sidewalks. Closed storefronts. One blinking traffic light hanging over the intersection like a tired eye refusing to sleep. What recording device? Dutton asked quietly. Briggs answered through static. System does not specify. Then clear the alert. I tried. Try harder. Yvonne sat motionless in the back seat. Her bag remained beside her knee. The tiny red light still blinking unseen inside the fabric. Dutton kept glancing at it now through the rearview mirror. Not openly. Carefully. Like a man trying not to look afraid in front of another cop. They pulled into the sheriff's station parking lot 3 minutes later. Bright floodlights washed the concrete white. 2 deputies smoking near the entrance straightened immediately when Dutton stepped out of the cruiser. What happened? One asked. Dutton slammed the door shut. Possible impersonation case. The words carried loudly enough for everyone outside to hear. Yvonne stepped out slowly behind him. Calm. Controlled. The deputies looked her up and down instantly. Old sedan. Worn jacket. Black woman alone at night. Their assumptions arrived before facts did. One deputy smirked quietly. Fake fed. Dutton laughed. Looks that way. False victory settled over him fast now. The station gave him confidence back. Badge on the wall. Deputies nearby. Cameras under his control. Familiar territory. He walked Yvonne through the front doors like a trophy arrest. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed over cracked tile floors. Coffee stains on paperwork. Scanner chatter filling the room. A drunk man handcuffed near booking looked up briefly before lowering his head again. Everybody watched. Nobody spoke. Dutton tossed Yvonne's notebook onto the front desk dramatically. Found her documenting officers. Tracking patrol patterns. A younger dispatcher frowned slightly while flipping through the pages. This is detailed. Exactly, Dutton interrupted. People planning lawsuits do this all the time. Yvonne finally spoke. Or investigators. The room went still for half a second. Then Dutton barked out a laugh loud enough to fill the station. Investigators. He pointed toward her bag. You carrying fake credentials too? Two deputies chuckled quietly behind him. Public pressure tightened instantly. The dispatcher lowered her eyes. Nobody wanted to challenge Dutton publicly. Not here. Not in his building. Dutton leaned against the booking desk confidently now. You know what happens next, he asked Yvonne. You get processed. Vehicle impounded. We send your little toy badge to state fraud. That would be a mistake. No, he snapped. Your mistake was thinking this county scares easy. He grabbed the black leather case again and held it up before the room like evidence at trial. Everybody look close, he announced mockingly. Tonight's performance piece. One deputy reached for it curiously, but Dutton pulled it back first. Control mattered to him now more than truth. Then came the micro-hope. Dispatcher Emily Harper suddenly frowned at her computer screen. Craig, what? Her plate keeps triggering restricted access blocks. Dutton's smile disappeared instantly. Emily looked uncertain now. I have never seen county systems reject sheriff credentials before. Dutton walked straight toward her terminal. Move. Maybe Callahan should see this first. I said move. Emily hesitated only 1 second before standing up. Dutton typed aggressively across the keyboard. The system flashed access denied twice. Then a new message appeared briefly across the monitor. Evidence channel active. Remote backup enabled. Deputy Briggs saw it over Dutton's shoulder. So did Yvonne. Dutton immediately shut the monitor off. System glitch. Nobody answered him this time. The room had become too quiet. One deputy slowly stopped smiling. Another looked toward Yvonne differently now. Not innocent. Not guilty. Unknown. Dangerous. Dutton noticed the shift immediately and slammed the leather case onto the desk hard enough to make everyone jump. Enough. His voice echoed across the station. This woman is not federal. She is a liar with a recorder. Then he pointed toward booking. Put her in holding until Sheriff Callahan arrives. Two deputies moved uncertainly toward Yvonne. She did not resist. But as one deputy reached for her bag, Yvonne spoke calmly for the first time in nearly a minute. Careful with that. Why? The deputy asked instinctively. Yvonne looked directly at the security camera mounted above booking. Then at Dutton. Because if the recording uploads before your sheriff gets here, she stopped. Silence spread across the station again. Dutton's face changed instantly. Uploads where? Yvonne said nothing. Then somewhere inside the station, a printer suddenly began spitting pages out by itself. The printer kept spitting pages onto the floor. Fast. Loud. Violent against the silence inside the sheriff's station. Every deputy turned toward it at once. Officer Craig Dutton moved first. Kill that printer. Deputy Briggs hesitated only half a second before hurrying toward the machine. Sheets scattered across the tile floor beneath the fluorescent lights. Names. Numbers. Vehicle logs. Partial timestamps. One page slid far enough for dispatcher Emily Harper to catch a glimpse before Briggs grabbed it away. Her face changed instantly. Those are traffic stop records. Dutton snapped toward her. No, they are not. I saw Route 9 reports. Then maybe you should stop looking at things above your pay grade. The room went quiet again. Yvonne Preston stood near booking beneath the security camera, hands still free but surrounded now by uniforms and suspicion. Dutton walked toward her slowly, confidence rebuilding itself through anger. "You know what I think," he said loudly enough for everybody to hear. "I think this whole thing is a setup." Nobody answered. He pointed directly at Yvonne. "She rolls into town with fake credentials, hidden recorders, officer logs, and suddenly county systems start glitching." He laughed sharply. "Real convenient." A drunk man sitting in booking looked over sleepily. "She do not look fake." Dutton slammed a hand against the metal desk hard enough to make everybody jump. "Nobody asked you." The man lowered his eyes immediately. Public pressure shifted harder now. Deputies whispering quietly. Phones appearing beneath counters. Dispatcher Emily watching Yvonne more carefully than before. Dutton noticed all of it. He could feel control slipping in tiny invisible pieces. So he escalated again. "Bag," he ordered. One deputy reached for Yvonne's shoulder. "Empty everything." "You already searched it," Yvonne answered calmly. "And now I am doing it correctly." He ripped the bag from her hands before she could respond. The old photograph fell out again onto the tile floor beside the scattered printer pages. Her father smiling beside the truck. Dutton stepped directly on it while digging through the bag aggressively. Yvonne's expression changed for the first time all night. Pain. Small. Sharp. Human. Briggs noticed immediately. So did Emily. Dutton finally pulled out the tiny recorder hidden beneath the notebook lining. Red light blinking steadily. The room froze. "There it is." His voice rose triumphantly. "Unauthorized surveillance device." He held it up high for everyone to see. "This woman has been secretly recording officers." Emily frowned. "That is not illegal in this state." Dutton turned toward her so fast she stepped backward instinctively. "You suddenly become a lawyer too?" "No, but," then stopped talking. False victory rolled through him hard now. He pointed toward Yvonne again like a prosecutor before a jury. "This is exactly how anti-police fraud works. Fake credentials. Selective recordings. Harassment claims." He looked around the room. "People like her destroy careers." One deputy nodded uncertainly. Another avoided eye contact completely. The station wanted the easy answer. Yvonne looked at the recorder still blinking in Dutton's hand. "You should not damage that." "Or what?" "It uploads automatically." Tiny silence. Briggs looked sharply toward the device. Emily did too. Dutton smiled slowly. "Mean again now. Then maybe the upload gets corrupted." He pulled the battery compartment halfway loose with his thumb. "Technical malfunction." "Craig," Briggs warned quietly. "Stay out of this." Dutton stepped closer to Yvonne until they stood almost face to face beneath the booking camera. "You had chances tonight," he said softly. "You could have paid your fine. Drove away. Kept your little notebook." He leaned closer. "Now you are leaving this building in cuffs." One deputy shifted nervously. Sheriff said wait. "I am done waiting." Dutton grabbed handcuffs from his belt and snapped one side around Yvonne's wrist hard enough for the metal click to echo through the station. Several people flinched at the sound. Nobody intervened. That was the humiliation. Not the cuffs. The silence around them. Yvonne lowered her eyes briefly toward the crushed photograph beneath Dutton's boot. Then she looked back up calmly. "You are making this worse." Dutton smiled directly into the security camera above them. "No," he said. "I am ending it." Then came the micro-hope. Emily's monitor suddenly flickered back on by itself. Security footage loading automatically. Grainy black and white playback from Route 9. The room turned instinctively toward the screen. Dutton's voice echoed faintly through the speakers. Maybe I accidentally find something that ruins your life. Silence hit the station instantly. Dutton lunged for the monitor. Turn it off. Briggs stepped forward at the same moment. Craig, but before anyone could move again, the front doors of the sheriff's station burst open and a deep voice thundered across the room. Nobody touched that screen. The entire sheriff's station froze. Officer Craig Dutton's hand stopped halfway toward the monitor as the front doors slammed against the wall. Sheriff Wade Callahan stepped inside carrying rainwater across the tile floor. Tall. Gray-haired. Heavy coat still dripping from the storm outside. 2 county deputies followed behind him, then stopped immediately when they saw the booking desk chaos. The monitor still flickered. Grainy highway footage paused on Yvonne Preston against the hood of her sedan beneath flashing patrol lights. Nobody touched that screen, Callahan repeated. His voice carried differently than Dutton's. Not loud. Heavy. Final. Dutton recovered first. Sheriff, this woman is running some kind of fraud operation. Then why is county software rejecting our credentials? Callahan asked calmly. Silence. The room shifted. Deputies who had been laughing earlier now stood perfectly still. Dispatcher Emily Harper slowly lowered her phone beneath the desk. Deputy Briggs avoided eye contact entirely. Dutton forced a scoff. Systems glitch. 3 times. Callahan walked slowly toward the monitor. The paused footage reflected faintly across his face now. That usually means federal firewall interference. The word federal landed hard across the station. Nobody spoke for 2 full seconds. Yvonne stood near booking with one cuff still attached to her wrist. Calm. Rain tapped softly against the station windows now. Outside thunder rolled low across Redfield. Dutton stepped forward aggressively. Sheriff, she had hidden recording devices. Legal in this state, Emily said quietly before she could stop herself. Dutton snapped toward her instantly. You trying to lose your job? Enough, Callahan interrupted sharply. That single word changed the room again. Tiny shift. But real. Callahan's eyes moved toward the black leather case sitting on the booking desk. Still closed now. Still dangerous somehow. Open it, Dutton demanded suddenly. Right now. End this. But nobody moved. Even Dutton seemed unsure whether he actually wanted it opened anymore. Callahan stared at the case for several long seconds. Where did you find it? Passenger seat. You inventory it? Silence. Briggs swallowed visibly. Not officially. Dutton cut in fast. Because she became combative. Yvonne finally spoke again. Quiet. Steady. That statement is false. Dutton pointed at her immediately. See? That tone. Like she owns the room. No, Callahan answered without looking away from the desk. Like she knows procedure. The room went silent again. Deeper this time. One deputy near booking slowly stepped backward. Another lowered the body cam he had quietly started recording with his phone. Something was changing. Nobody fully understood what yet. But they could feel it. The monitor suddenly flickered back to life by itself. Audio restored now. Dutton's own voice echoed through the speakers. Maybe I accidentally find something that ruins your life. Silence spread instantly. Somebody near dispatch whispered, Jesus. Dutton lunged toward the monitor. Turn that off. Callahan blocked him with one arm. Do not touch it. It is edited. Then why are you panicking? Dutton's mouth opened. Closed again. Tiny crack in the armor. Have you ever watched a room realize the person wearing the badge might actually be the danger? The footage continued loading slowly. Progress bar crawling across the bottom of the screen. 42% recovered. Then 51. Then 67. Every deputy in the station watched now. Nobody pretending not to care anymore. Yvonne remained still beside booking, one cuff hanging loosely from her wrist beneath the fluorescent lights. Callahan noticed it for the first time. His eyes narrowed slightly. You cuffed her before confirming identity? Dutton answered too quickly. Suspicious conduct. Did dispatch confirm a warrant? Silence. Craig. No, Callahan looked toward Briggs now. Did you? Briggs hesitated. Fear everywhere on his face. No, sir. Dutton stepped forward again, desperately trying to reclaim control. Sheriff, you are letting her manipulate this whole station. Then explain the federal trace. Fake credentials. Explain the restricted clearance. Dutton said nothing. The progress bar hit 89%. Then stopped suddenly. Frozen. Dutton exhaled sharply through his nose. Tiny relief. See, he said quickly. Corrupted upload. But Emily was staring at her screen now with widening eyes. Sheriff, what? Emily turned the monitor slightly toward him. A second hidden window had opened behind the playback system. Secure access request pending. Authorized identity verification required. Beneath it sat a partially loaded line. Subject, Preston, YV, the rest remained blocked by encryption. Nobody in the station breathed. Then Sheriff Callahan slowly reached toward the black leather case on the desk. Sheriff Wade Callahan's hand closed around the black leather case slowly. Every eye inside the station followed the movement. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Rain hammered harder against the windows now. Nobody spoke. Officer Craig Dutton finally stepped forward again, desperate to regain control. Sheriff, this is exactly what she wants. Drama. Intimidation. Callahan ignored him completely. He turned the case over once beneath the desk lamp. Then his thumb pressed the clasp open fully. The gold badge inside caught the light instantly. Federal seal. Sharp blue lettering. Official credentials. The room stopped breathing. Dispatcher Emily Harper covered her mouth with one hand. Deputy Briggs took one slow step backward. Dutton stared at the badge like his brain refused to process what his eyes were seeing. Callahan lifted the identification card beside it. His face changed immediately. Not confusion. Recognition. Oh God, Briggs whispered under his breath. Dutton shook his head fast. No. No, that is fake. Callahan looked directly at him for the first time since entering the station. This credential verifies through federal encryption. Silence. Heavy silence. Then Callahan read the card aloud carefully. Special Agent Yvonne Preston. Federal Bureau of Investigation. The words hit the station like a gunshot. One deputy actually lowered his phone slowly onto the desk. Another stepped away from Yvonne instinctively. The handcuff hanging from her wrist suddenly looked very different to everybody in the room. Dutton laughed once. Sharp. Nervous. Anybody can print credentials. Not with level 3 trace authority, Emily answered quietly. Dutton spun toward her immediately. Stay out of this. You should have stayed out of her bag, Briggs muttered before he could stop himself. Dutton's face turned toward him slowly now. Betrayed. Furious. The monitor behind them suddenly resumed playback automatically. Full audio now. Dutton's own voice filled the station again. Judge Vance signs whatever paperwork I put in front of him. Another clip followed instantly. Maybe I accidentally find something that ruins your life. Then another. Nobody in this county cares what happens to drivers like you. Every sentence echoed through the room while the deputies stood frozen beneath the fluorescent lights. Yvonne remained calm beside booking. No smile. No arrogance. Just quiet dignity after hours of humiliation. Callahan looked from the screen back toward Dutton carefully. How long has this been happening? Dutton swallowed once. Sheriff, listen to me, how long? Nobody moved. The drunk man in holding stared openly now. Emily's eyes filled slowly with realization. Briggs looked sick. Then came the second reveal. Callahan reached into the leather case again and removed a folded Federal Operations letter clipped behind the badge. Official Joint Investigation Authorization. Route 9 Corridor. Corruption Task Force. 14-month surveillance operation. Dutton's face drained completely white. No, he whispered. Callahan read further silently. Then his eyes widened slightly. 61 documented victims. The room erupted into whispers immediately. 61. Jesus Christ, 14 months. Dutton stepped backward. She set me up. Yvonne finally spoke directly to him. Calm. Clear. No, Officer Dutton. You exposed yourself. Silence slammed back across the station. Even the rain outside seemed quieter now. Dutton pointed wildly toward the monitor. That footage is edited. Emily shook her head immediately. Timestamp chain matches county servers. Briggs added softly, and your bodycam auto-uploaded before you damaged the recorder. Dutton looked toward Briggs like he wanted to deny everything again, but the younger deputy could not even meet his eyes anymore. The power had shifted completely now. Everybody felt it. The same room that watched Yvonne get cuffed minutes earlier now stared at her with stunned respect and fear mixed together. Callahan stepped toward her slowly. Agent Preston, the title alone changed the air again. Dutton closed his eyes briefly when he heard it. Callahan unlocked the cuff from her wrist himself. Metal clicked open softly. Nobody in the station made a sound. Yvonne rubbed the red mark on her wrist once but said nothing. No victory speech. No anger. Just exhaustion hidden beneath control. Then came the final shock. Callahan unfolded the last page inside the federal file. His eyes moved across the names listed there. Slowly. Carefully. Then he looked up at Dutton with something close to disbelief. Craig, Dutton's breathing became shallow instantly. What? Callahan held the paper tighter. Judge Harold Vance flipped 6 weeks ago. The room froze again. What? Dutton whispered. Callahan's eyes never left him now. He gave federal investigators everything. Dutton staggered backward one full step. For the first time all night, he looked truly afraid. Then the station doors opened again behind them, and 3 men in dark federal jackets stepped silently into the room. The 3 federal agents entered without rushing. Dark jackets. Gold lettering across the chest. FBI. The room changed instantly. Deputies who had stood tall minutes earlier now stepped aside automatically. Phones disappeared beneath counters. Nobody laughed anymore. Officer Craig Dutton backed away from the booking desk slowly, eyes locked on the agents like he still believed this could somehow be reversed. The lead agent, Marcus Reed, walked directly toward Sheriff Wade Callahan first. You secured the scene. Callahan nodded once. Recording systems are intact. Reed's eyes moved toward Yvonne Preston. One glance at the cuff hanging loose from her wrist was enough. His jaw tightened slightly. Who cuffed her? Nobody answered immediately. Then every eye in the station turned toward Dutton. Silence did the accusing now. Reed walked toward him calmly. Officer Craig Dutton. Dutton tried to recover his voice. Look, this whole thing got misunderstood. Reed did not stop walking. 14 months of recordings say otherwise. Dutton glanced around desperately now. Deputies avoided eye contact. Briggs looked sick. Emily stared at the floor. Even Sheriff Callahan stood still beside the monitor instead of stepping in to save him. The power was gone. Completely gone. Reed held out one hand calmly. Badge. Dutton froze. Excuse me. Your badge. You cannot just, actually, Callahan interrupted quietly, they can. Another silence. Deep. Humiliating. Dutton's breathing became uneven. Sheriff, you know me. That is the problem. Slowly, reluctantly, Dutton unclipped the badge from his chest. The metal trembled slightly in his hand before Reed took it away. One small object. 11 years of power disappearing in 2 seconds. Nobody in the station moved. Then came the next consequence. A second FBI agent placed thick evidence folders across the booking desk. 17 counts prepared so far, he announced. Extortion. Civil rights violations. Evidence tampering. Illegal seizure. Emily covered her mouth again softly. Briggs closed his eyes completely for 1 second. Dutton pointed wildly toward Yvonne. She baited me. Yvonne answered calmly. No, Officer Dutton. You chose your own words. Reed nodded toward the monitor. And your own threats. The bodycam footage replayed again automatically behind them. Maybe county lockup teaches you some respect. Nobody in this county is going to believe you. Every sentence sounded uglier now in the silence of the station. Dutton's voice no longer sounded powerful. Just cruel. Small. Afraid. Then Sheriff Callahan spoke quietly toward the room. Any deputy who participated in illegal roadside seizure steps forward tonight. Nobody moved. Because federal subpoenas arrive in the morning. One older deputy removed his duty belt slowly and placed it on the counter. Then another sat down heavily against the wall like his legs stopped working. Fear had changed directions. For years, civilians feared the badge. Now deputies feared the truth attached to it. Yvonne finally bent down and picked up the old photograph of her father from the floor. The corner was still crushed beneath Dutton's boot print. She smoothed it carefully with her thumb. Reed noticed the gesture. You okay? She looked at the photograph for 1 second before answering. I am working. No anger. No celebration. Just dignity surviving humiliation. Then came the final emotional shift. Dispatcher Emily walked quietly toward Yvonne holding the notebook Dutton mocked earlier. You kept records on every stop. Yvonne nodded once. Every victim who thought nobody listened. Emily swallowed hard. People in this county needed somebody to. Behind them, Dutton sat heavily in a chair while federal agents began inventorying evidence around him. Bodycam uploads. Highway stop logs. Tow company invoices. Sheriff Callahan looked 20 years older reading through the files. My God, he whispered. 61 victims. Dutton finally broke. It was not just me. The room turned toward him instantly. Reed stepped closer. Who else? Dutton looked toward the courthouse through the rain-streaked station windows. Fear moved across his face again. Real fear this time. You already know about Judge Vance, he muttered. But if those recordings reached federal servers, he stopped himself suddenly. Reed narrowed his eyes. Reached who? Dutton looked directly at Yvonne for the first time without arrogance left in him. You were never just investigating me. Yvonne said nothing. But the silence itself confirmed it. Then Agent Reed turned toward her slowly. Agent Preston, he said carefully, Washington wants you on the call personally. Rainwater still clung to the sheriff station windows when Agent Marcus Reed handed the secure phone to Yvonne Preston. The room remained silent behind her. Deputies stood motionless beside desks that suddenly felt smaller without fear protecting them. Officer Craig Dutton sat alone now beneath the booking camera, wrists cuffed in front of him with his own department restraints. Nobody looked at him the same way anymore. Yvonne listened quietly on the call for less than a minute. Then she answered with the same calm voice she carried through the entire night. Understood. She handed the phone back to Reed. Washington approved expansion warrants, Reed announced to the room. Tow records. Judicial communications. Asset seizures. Everything. Sheriff Wade Callahan closed his eyes briefly. This town is going to wake up different tomorrow. It should have years ago, Yvonne answered softly. No anger. Just truth. Outside, dawn slowly pushed pale light across Route 9. By morning, federal vehicles lined the courthouse steps. News vans crowded the streets. The towing company gates sat chained shut under federal seal. Judge Harold Vance resigned before noon. District Attorney Martin Keene disappeared behind legal counsel. People who spent years whispering inside diners finally started speaking out loud. Martha Ellis stood outside her diner holding a paper cup of coffee while reporters gathered nearby. For the first time in years, she looked less afraid than tired. Yvonne stepped out of an FBI SUV carrying her worn notebook beneath one arm. Martha recognized it instantly. That little book caused all this? Yvonne glanced down at the pages carefully. No. What they did caused this. Martha smiled for the first time in a long while. Small. Real. My son would have liked you. Yvonne nodded once. He deserved better. Nearby, Deputy Leon Briggs removed his badge quietly and placed it into an evidence envelope himself. No speeches. No excuses. Just shame settling where pride used to live. Before leaving, he stopped beside Yvonne awkwardly. I should have said something sooner. Yvonne looked at him calmly. You finally did. He lowered his eyes. Sometimes dignity returns one honest sentence at a time. By afternoon, the station lobby looked different already. Federal auditors moved through boxes of reports while victims slowly entered through the front doors carrying old receipts, towing notices, seizure paperwork, photographs, handwritten complaints. Things they kept for years because nobody believed them before. Dispatcher Emily Harper helped organize every file personally. Do not lose a single page, she told a deputy firmly. The deputy nodded immediately. Systems were changing now. Not because power became kinder overnight. Because somebody finally forced the truth into daylight. Near sunset, Yvonne stood alone beside her old sedan parked outside the station. The same car Dutton mocked hours earlier. The same hood he shoved her against beneath the highway lights. She opened the driver door slowly and placed the old photograph of her father back inside the glove compartment. This time carefully flattened smooth. Agent Reed approached quietly beside her. Washington wants you leading the next phase. Yvonne looked down Route 9 stretching into the distance beneath golden evening light. There are more roads like this. That is exactly why they asked. Reed hesitated 1 second before handing her the black leather FBI case back. You dropped this during booking. Yvonne took it gently. The gold badge reflected sunset instead of patrol lights now. Different kind of power. Quieter. She stared at it for a moment before closing the case again. Badges are supposed to make people feel safe, she said softly. Reed nodded once. Across the parking lot, a young black family pulled over beside the diner with a flat tire. A new deputy walked toward them carefully. No hand on his weapon. No shouting. Just respect. The little girl inside the back seat looked nervous until the deputy smiled and said, "Need some help?" Yvonne watched the family relax slowly. watched fear loosen its grip for the first time. Then she slipped the badge case back into her jacket and climbed into her old sedan. The engine started softly beneath the evening sky. And for the first time in years, people drove down Route 9 knowing the badge on that road might finally mean protection instead of fear.